Hi everyone and welcome back to this new podcast. Alexandre and Olivier and Alexandre back with you. Hope you're doing well. This week we are putting online our 50th podcast episode, and for this reason this episode will be divided into parts. So first of all, Olivier and me discussed about the way that we've decided to put online some podcasts for Canadialog. We are doing a small history. We are also explaining you how it's working behind the scene and the challenges we faced during the last year and a half. So this way you'll be able to learn a bit more about our podcast. And in the second part, I'll be with you to show you how to use 3D Touch for iOS, how to turn on or off this feature, how to use it with VoiceOver, and the action you can perform by using 3D Touch. Enjoy! Before talking about the main topic of this podcast, I would like to take a moment to inform you that now we are putting online the 50th episode of our podcast, and to remind the great moment and explains you how we decided to create and put online some podcasts. I am with Olivier. Hi, Olivier.
Hi, Alex.
How are you doing?
Fine.
I'm doing well. And how's going the semester?
It's ending. A few exams next week, but we're close to the end.
Great, excellent. So you'll pass over, don't worry.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the podcast. Can you explain to our listeners how we made up and how we decided to create some podcast?
Well, before that, maybe we should start by talking how we met, because this is the key of this.
Yes, it is.
So, I called you at Canadialog technical support because I still have, but when I call you, I just got a Surface Pro 4. And I had some questions related to the Surface Pen, which is the pen that now doesn't come with the Surface anymore, but in that time it was coming with it in the box. So I had some questions related to that and how it was working with JAWS. So I called Canadialog technical support, and I was with Alex, and we discussed about an hour, and you discovered that I knew a lot about technology, right?
Yes, right. And by the way, for those who don't know about the Microsoft, the Surface Tab is the tablet provided by Microsoft. And also, for those who don't know, I am normally the person who answers calls related to tech support questions, especially for blindness product like JAWS, Braille displays, etc.
And so I called you back a couple of times because I had some other questions, and
he called me all the time. I was so exhausted. No, that's okay.
And our conversations were long when we were on the phone. And I always wanted to make some podcast and be known in the blindness community. So one day, I don't remember why I called him, but I said, hey, maybe I could do some podcast for you, or...
Yes, I think we start discussing together when you called me the first time at technical support.
No.
I think. Yeah, no, but
yeah.
You called me, I think it was in June 2016, right?
Right.
Yeah, June 2016. And you called me a couple of times, and you, I remember that you told me that maybe I'll be interested to do some podcast. I don't know if you'll be interested to do some and to put podcasts online. And I remember that George Assoun, for those who knows, he is the manager of Canadialog. He talked about this to me a couple of times before in the past. So I was okay. Yeah, why not? Maybe let's go ahead and do some podcasts. So you sent me a demo, and we listened to it, and we start doing some podcasts, and it was really great.
Yeah.
And do you remember what's the first episode we've put online?
It was about Windows 10 narrator, which will be covered in a future podcast because there's a new feature in the new build of Windows 10 that will be interesting to show later on.
Yeah, I think we'll need to have a look at it. And yes, so that was related to the Windows narrator. And since this one, we've put 50 podcasts online. And note that each podcast are recorded in both languages. So either in English as well as in French. So if we had recorded like 100 episodes at this time. And do you remember how we start recording these podcasts? The technologies? Yeah.
In English, it was a bit different because it was with two computers. I was using my Mac running Boot Camp to make the demos, but I was recording with my Surface Pro 4 at first.
Yes, using the Surface microphone. Yes.
Yeah. And then you got me some better equipment and we started with the Mac. But we started with the Victor Reader stream. And now you taught me GarageBand, which we now use.
Yes, and we purchased some better microphone, especially USB microphone. And personally, I've also purchased a mixer and external sound cards, so it's offering better sound quality. And yes, you start also using a mixer yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think it was really nice to start this way, and I think we've greatly improved the quality of the podcast episode after episode, and it was really great. And when we put online the first episode,
well, actually, it was on the AirPods, but only available in French. You put it online, but we put the first episode, I think it was about July 2017.
Something like this, yes. I don't have the exact date, but something like this. So it's we are working together since more than a year and a half. So that's really nice, and I think you learn a lot of things, and maybe you can talk about what was a bit difficult at the beginning and challenges.
HTML encoding. After that, there's when we cut the episodes. This is the most boring part. And I learned how to put online on YouTube. I learned how to write with HTML, as I said, and you taught me a lot of things.
Yeah, I think also RSS is your best friend too.
Not sure.
What is RSS for those who don't know about? This is the RSS feed that we need to generate that allows to access after that the podcast using a Victor Reader stream or track, or using iTunes on iPhone, on a Mac, or Google Play, Stitcher, etc., etc., etc. And I've put online, this is what I've just realized, we start working on the RSS feed I think it was in November 2017, and I put this one available for everybody December. And I think we have a couple of bloopers too, right?
Yeah, so one that I remember when you came home for the first time, because we must say it, yes, we work together, but we are also very good friends. I think people have noticed it. So you came
Yes.
at home a couple of times, and
I came 3 times this time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When we recorded the iPhone 8 versus iPhone 10 podcast, you knocked your elbow on the table and it made such a loud noise, but we removed it from the recording, of course.
Sure. Yeah, because, the microphone stand is a Caesar one with a spring, and, as soon as you touch it, it can do a noise like this. And, it's a folding table, so I just knocked myself on it, and oh my God. And we worked like on some podcasts, like a couple of times after midnight. And I also remember that Chris, your brother, start snoring very loud. And I think we were recording at this time. I don't remember exactly, but I remember that I start hearing this, and it was, oh my God.
Yeah.
So, all the bloopers we made during the time we record shows, it was, I think if we grab all of them, we'll be able to record an episode only on these bloopers. So, sometimes it's really funny, but it was really nice to work together and improve the way that we are recording podcast. I remember the first show that we did together. Like we started using technologies like Skype and things like this. Now I've installed a ThinkTalk server, and the sound quality is much better when using good microphone. So I think it was a nice challenge for everybody, and I hope that you're happy to work with us, and that we'll continue.
I just want our listeners to know that even if I don't record, making a podcast takes a lot of time, and you have some stuff to do, like writing the introductions, re-listening to the podcast, removing bad parts. So even if I was less active this fall, I still made I was still there in the background.
Yeah, because we should say that recording a podcast, put it online, and make all that stuff, it may take like between 10 to, let's say in some situation, 14 hours, because we are recording each episode in English as well as in French, so we need to prepare the stuff. In some situation, take some notes, record, listen, and sometimes re-record, etc. So it's long to do. It's sometimes hard to do, and we're not like just discussing like we are doing right now. We are doing some demos, so if something is wrong, it's not saying, the computer or the iPhone's not saying the right thing, I need to cut it off, then record it back. So it's sometimes hard, and it is taking a lot of time. So yes, I know that you're still available to write down some text for the website and things like this, so thank you very much. And I think we can also invite our listeners to send us some feedback, some comments, some questions.
Definitely.
And
it's always fun to have feedback. Hey, continue your job. You're doing good job. It's always good to know that people appreciate what we do.
Sure. And maybe also, like, if you have some questions, maybe we have the voicemail over the phone. Maybe you can leave us a message, and some situation, maybe we can also play your message during a show and answer your question. Or if you just want to suggest us a topic for a podcast, that's going to be nice. Send us an email, give us a call. It's always nice to hear back from you.
Yeah.
And so thank you very much to be with us, and hope that we'll be able to continue our partnership for a couple of months and maybe years.
Yeah, and when school will be done, I will be making some other podcasts. I have some other suggestions. In the meantime, I will let you with Alex for the 50th episode. So I will catch you guys in the next one. Take care.
All right. Thank you very much. So maybe we'll be able to talk soon. And without further ado, let's talk about the main topic of this show, which is 3D Touch on iOS devices. Since the availability of iPhone 6s and 6s Plus, 3D Touch is available on many devices, as well as iPhone 7, 7 Plus, 8, 8 Plus, 10, 10s, and 10s Max, and probably on other devices also. And what is 3D Touch is the possibility to perform additional actions by putting your finger on the screen and exerts a pressure. So if you do a pressure with your finger, if you put more pressure on the screen with your finger, if you push it hardly, it's going to process a 3D touch. And in some situations, 3D touch may cause some issues if you're not familiar with this technology. And today, I'd like, first of all, to show you how it is possible to manage the sensibility of 3D touch and show you how you can disable it. And also, I'll be with you to show you what you can do and the action you can perform when using 3D touch. So first of all, I'll go ahead and open the settings.
Settings heading.
We'll go into General.
General button.
There
Selected.
we go.
Settings back button.
Then Accessibility.
Accessibility button. Selected. General back button.
And in the accessibility settings, we'll be able to find 3D touch.
Zoom, Mac, speed, large, bold, button, reduce, increase, reduce, on slap, interact, reach, double tap, switch control, assistive, touch accommodation, home button, Siri, 3D touch, on, button.
There we go. So if I click on,
selected, accessibility, back button.
By default,
3D touch, heading, 3D touch, on. Double
by
tap
default,
to toggle setting.
3D touch will be on if you have a device that can support this technology. So if you want to turn it off, just double tap.
Off.
There we go. And now if I put my finger on the screen, and if I'm trying to put pressure, it's going to do nothing. Then if I go ahead and turn it back on, then if I put my finger,
3D touch, off. Double tap to toggle.
It is now off. So
on.
I'll just put it back on.
When 3D touch is on, you can press on the display using different degrees of pressure to reveal content previews, actions, and contextual menus.
There we go. So this is the explanation of how 3D touch works.
3D touch sensitivity, heading, medium, adjustable.
By default,
Swipe.
It's at medium. You can flick up or flick down with one finger to adjust
Light.
the level of sensitivity.
Medium. Firm.
for the purpose of this podcast, I'll put it to firm. And note that by default, 3D Touch offers 3 levels of pressure. We'll talk about this a bit later on. But even if you adjust this level of firmness or sensitivity, the 3 level of pressure will still be available. It is just reacting differently depending of the level and depending the pressure you'll exert on the screen. So if I continue.
Adjust the amount of pressure needed to activate 3D Touch. Light sensitivity reduces the amount of pressure required. Firm sensitivity increases it.
So that's the explanation.
3D Touch sensitivity test heading.
And now
Sensitivity evaluation button.
I can
Test the amount of pressure that must be applied to activate 3D Touch.
press this button by performing a 3D touch. So I'll put my
Sensitivity
finger
evaluation button.
on and
Test the amount of pressure that must be applied to activate 3D Touch.
my finger is still on the screen. Then if I exert more pressure, there we go.
Flowers image.
And now
Actions available.
we can see that the 3D touch was successfully performed. So I'll do the zigzag gesture with 2 fingers.
Accessibility back button.
And we are back in the 3D touch screen. Now I'd like to show you the 3 different levels of pressures you can exert on your screen. So let's put pressure on the screen and hear the sound. There you go. Again. These are the 3. If I'm performing the 3D touch fast, we can hear the 3 pop sound, but they are playing fast. But if you exert more pressure, like from time to time, one level, exerting again pressure, more pressure again, you'll have the 3 different levels available. During the time we were talking about gestures and sensitivity of gestures, I'd like also to show you something interesting for beginners.
Accessibility
I'll
back button.
go back in the accessibility screen.
Home button. Siri button.
And then I'll go ahead and find VoiceOver.
Switch double interact on slap reduce increase reduce button shift bold larger speech display magnet zoom VoiceOver on accessibility back
And at the bottom of the screen, I'll
button. Verbosity.
just go ahead and scroll with 3
Rows 6 to
fingers
17
up.
of 17. Double tap timeout 0.25s button.
The double tap timeout.
VoiceOver back button. Double tap timeout heading.
What is that?
Double tap timeout heading. Seconds 0.25 text field. Decrement increment. 2 taps that occur within the specified timeout will perform a double tap in VoiceOver.
So if you're having difficulties to double click on your screen, the double click should be this speed, but if you're unable to do it this speed and would like to do it, you can change the delay between 2 contacts or 2 taps on the screen. This value will set the timeout between the first and the second tap. So let's say that you want to increase the delay, that VoiceOver will consider 2 tap as a double tap instead of 2 separate tap. You can put here a value from 0.20 second to 0.50 second. And you can also
Increment button.
use the increment
Decrement button.
or decrement button. So you'll have the possibility to do it this way. And so you'll be able to modify the behavior of the double tap. Now, let's go back to the home screen.
Mail.
And just to show you what we can perform with 3D Touch, I'll give you a couple of samples. And on the home screen, on all icons, especially icons that are coming directly with the iPhone, so pre-installed app, you'll be able to find shortcuts. So let's
Dock. Phone.
find the
Double tap to
phone
open.
icon. On the home screen, when performing a 3D touch, you'll not hear a specific sound for this.
Dismiss shortcut menu.
But
Create new contact
I
button.
just feel an haptic feedback. So I feel a vibration confirming me that the action was properly performed.
Dismiss
And
shortcut menu.
now I have a menu. Dismiss shortcut.
Create new contact button. Search for contact but view most recent call button. Favorites heading. Add widget button.
Etc. etc. So I have a couple of shortcuts here. I can perform the
Add widget button. Arrived in Canadialog.
two-finger zigzag gesture to close this
Calendar.
menu. Then
Flag.
I am back on my home screen. And
Dock.
let
Phone.
me find phone again. And be sure to differentiate the action performed with a 3D touch compared to a double tap and hold. I'll perform this gesture here. So I'm double tapping the screen and I'll hold my finger for until I'll hear a sound. There we go.
Started editing.
And there you can start editing and moving the app on the screen. So that's not the same thing at all.
Finished editing. Mail. 12 unread emails.
All right, so
Double tap
just
to open.
press the home button to exit from there. And I'll show you something else.
Phone. Keypad. Tab. 4 of 5.
All right, I'll
Selected. Keypad. Tab.
go ahead and enter a phone number.
8 5 5 4 1 1 4 4.
All right, sorry, I just put a pause during the time I was entering this phone number.
Call button.
Now I have the call button. If I just double click on this one, it's going to call the phone number I've just entered. If I go ahead and perform a double tap and hold, it's going to call also the phone number. However, if I'm performing a 3D touch,
Call button.
I have a new menu that just popped up. Call,
FaceTime audio button. FaceTime video button. Call button.
and the possibility to launch a FaceTime audio and a FaceTime video call. So that can be nice if you don't want to search in your contacts or if you want to launch a FaceTime call with someone that is not inside your contact, you'll have the possibility to do so. I'll just perform these exact
Phone number. 5.
There we go. These exact gestures with two fingers. So left, right, left with two fingers to exit this menu. So you'll have a couple of interesting things like these one you can perform with 3D touch. I'll show you a couple of other things you can perform. Being in an app, you can also perform a 3D touch on the left side of your screen.
App switcher. Phone. Active.
And automatically,
Swipe up with 3.
the app switcher is turned on. So instead of double clicking the home button, you can perform this gesture and it's going to open automatically the app switcher. I'll just press the home button to exit from there.
Phone. Phone. Mail.
And
12.
a second time to exit phone. Other thing you can perform, let's find the message.
Docs. Messages.
Again,
Double tap
if
to open.
I'm doing a 3D touch,
Dismiss shortcut. New message. New message button.
so now I can create
Dismiss
a
shortcut
new message, or if I recently sent a message to someone, I'll also be able to access directly the conversation without opening the app. So I'll just
Dismiss shortcut. Maps.
click on Dismiss Shortcuts and I'll
Doc.
go
Messages.
ahead and open messages.
Edit button.
And I'll find my name.
Alexandre Bellemare. Voice. Back.
All right, so I've just opened the conversation. I'll find the text edit box.
Message. iMessage. Text field. Cap V.
And from there,
Misspelled. Edit. Braille screen input. Orientation locked. Landscape. Home button to the Cap V.
I'll type in a short message.
Dot positions calib. THIS spe IS A spe AOR spe ES semi D D semicolon S F A D D G period message.
Okay, there we go.
Portrait.
And
Send button.
here's the send button. So if I just double click this one, it's going to send the message and that's it. Or if I perform from here a 3D touch,
Send message. Close button.
then
Closed button. Closed. Invisible. Gentle. Loud. Slam. Screen. Selected. Send with effect.
I can send a message with an effect.
Selected. Bubble. Screen. Slam. But loud. Button. Gentle. Button. Invisible ink. Button.
I'll go ahead with invisible. I'll double tap.
Invisible ink. Send. Button.
And double tap again to send the message.
Invisible ink.
So this way, I can add effects to my message. I'll just
Braille screen input. Orientation locked.
again
Landscape.
some
Home
text.
button. Dot positions calibrated. H. I. S. Space. I. S. A. N. O. T. A. E. R. T. E. T. Period. Test.
All right. And now
Portrait. Characters.
I'll come back to characters, my rotor, and I'll touch the keyboard.
Delete. L.
And
Llama.
what I'm going to do, I'll leave my finger there and I'll perform a 3D touch. And after that, I'll be able, by moving my finger left or right, to move the insertion point in the text.
Moving insertion point. T. Period. T. S. E. T. R. E. H. T. O. N. A. Space. I. Space. S. I. H. T.
All right.
T.
Moving to the
H.
right.
I. S. Space.
I'll stop between
I. S.
another.
N. Nova. O. T. H.
I'll place the cursor
T.
between the T and the H.
O. T.
Then
Finish moving insertion point.
now I just release the pressure, but my finger is still stick to the screen. So
N. H.
I'll
Y. U.
put
Uniform.
a random
Y.
Y
Yankee.
here.
Y.
And then
Word. Misspelled characters.
I am by characters.
Y. T. O.
I'll flick up,
N. A. A. N.
then down.
O. T. Y. H. E. R.
And we can
Romeo.
see that the focus was properly placed at the right position in the text, and I was able to insert the Y between the T and the H. So that's how you can move very quickly the insertion point when editing by using 3D Touch. So let's say that I want to move it to the end of this text.
Shift A. Move T. E. At. Period.
Then I'm moving to the right. There we go.
Finish
I'll
moving insertion
release
point.
the pressure, and if you don't want to
G.
write down a letter,
A, B,
I'll suggest
return.
you to find the return key at the bottom right of the keyboard. Then now release your finger, and if now I'm flicking down, that's the end. If I'm flicking up,
Period. T. S. S. T. Period.
there we go. Note that I am currently using the touch typing input mode with VoiceOver. If you are using the standard typing mode, you can release your finger without any problem after moving the cursor via 3D Touch, because in standard typing mode, you'll absolutely need to double click on the screen to write down a letter, which is a bit different with the touch typing mode, because as soon as you release your finger, a letter will be written down. If now I want to delete this text, for sure, I can
Delete.
find the delete, then
Period.
release my finger, then perform a double tap. It's going to be longer than just finding
delete.
the delete,
T.
then pressing a 3D
T.
touch and hold. There we go. It's all deleted. So using 3D touch, it might be faster when editing text or if you want to navigate and perform quick actions. So, but by the way, please make sure to use 3D touch. If you're finding a letter on the keyboard,
Copy. Store. Button.
then, for example,
I'll
I'll use the flick right to find back the keyboard.
Cap W. Copy.
Then if
Backup.
I go ahead and perform a double tap and hold,
Cap. Alternative characters available.
then
Slide
if-
your finger to discover alternative characters. Copy
Alright.
Grav. Copy Acute. Copy Grav. Copy Acute. Copy Acute.
you know, these are the alternative characters.
Alternative characters hidden.
So that's really not the same thing as using 3D touch when editing some text. And also make sure to perform, if you want to move the focus, make sure to perform the 3D touch while being on the keyboard, not when being in the edit field, when your finger is touching the edit field. That's not going to perform the same action. And also, please keep in mind that if you want to bring back the insertion point at the beginning or at the end of the edit field, you can for sure use 3D Touch and swipe, but you can also find the text field.
Message text field is editing.
Then just double tap.
Insertion point at start. Insertion point at end.
And double tap again. So, use the easiest way you'll have depending the situation you are. But if you want to move the focus at the middle of an edit box, you can use 3D Touch, or for sure you can still continue to use VoiceOver Router. I'll also show you how you can use 3D Touch to navigate into an app like Settings. So I'll just
App switcher, messages, active.
Perform a 3D touch on the left of my screen. This is what I've did.
Settings,
and
active.
I'll touch settings.
Swipe, settings. Settings, keyboards, back button.
And now, yes, I am in the keyboard screen. Like if I want to...
Keyboards, back button. General, back button.
I'll
settings,
just click.
back button.
Okay,
Card, settings, back button. Settings.
In the settings main screen. And if you're used with Explore by Touch, you can drag your finger all around the screen.
Siri and search, Touch ID and passcode. What display and brightness button.
Then if I want to open display and brightness, I can leave my finger here, then perform a 3D touch.
Settings, back button. Tech, bold, display zoom, head view, choose a view for iPhone.
Let's try to find the auto lock.
Text size, raise auto lock, never.
There we
button.
go. Then I'll perform a 3D touch.
4 minute display and brightness, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 5 selected, never.
Then again a 3D touch. Okay, it's already selected.
2 minutes.
Try with 2 minutes. There we go.
3 minutes, selected, 2 minutes, 4 minutes.
Back to never.
Never, 5 minutes.
Oops.
Never.
Okay, then
display and brightness, back button, settings,
top
back
left.
button, auto lock, never button.
And I'm back to never. So, if you are used with Explore by Touch, you don't have to raise your finger, then double tap to open an icon or to do a share tap. So that's mean to leave the first finger in place, then tap with another finger. You can just exert more pressure and it's gonna activate the button you're in. And 3D Touch might be really useful when using third-party apps. In some situation, I observed that it is just impossible to click an element with VoiceOver standard gestures by like double tapping or doing a double tap and all or even a shared tap. Fortunately, in some situation, it's not working. But if you're performing a 3D touch, it's magic. It's going to work. And, especially on some websites or an app that I'm using every day and where I'm using 3D touch is Facebook. If more than one friend posts a link in some situation, you may oblige to perform a 3D touch in order to be able to access this link. So this is nice to know about 3D touch, how to use it, how to manage 3D touch, because it can help you using better your iPhone and open some elements that can't be open simply by performing a standard double tap or things like this. Another thing that I'd like to tell you is that if you're a Braille user, you can simulate a 3D touch with a Braille display by using 356 chord. So that's mean pressing at the same time dots 356 and the space bar. You can perform 3D touch on some elements, but be aware of an issue with this one, especially on the home screen.
Mail. Doc. Messages.
If I find
messages. Dismiss shortcut. Alexandre Bellemare button.
Okay.
Dismiss shortcut menu.
I'll just dismiss.
Dismiss shortcut maps.
When performing this command with a Braille display, instead of having access to this menu on the home screen, not only for messages, but for all the icons that provide a shortcut menu. It's going to be the same thing. Unfortunately, maybe we can inform Apple about this issue.
Doc messages.
It's going to perform the
Double
following.
tap to open. Started editing.
So double tap and hold. But if you're using 356 chords on, let's say, a button, let's say on the call button in the phone app or on the send button in messages, it's gonna work. But for sure, you'll not be able to move the focus in a text edit box like I was doing with you when using 3D Touch on the screen. Or for sure, you'll not be able to perform the 3D Touch on the left of the screen to open the app switcher. Just do H chord twice and you'll be able to access the app switcher. So this is just a quick note about on how to use 3D Touch with a Braille display. So I think this is it for this podcast. Hope it helped you understand how 3D Touch works and why, if you recently purchased a new iPhone, why in some situation you may experience strange behavior if you're exerting too much pressure on your screen with your finger. This is normal. That's 3D Touch. You'll have to be used with it. In the first days, you'll have an iPhone that supports 3D Touch, but after that, don't worry, you should be able to use it without any issues. And if you're not, you can still go ahead and disable this function in the accessibility settings. Don't hesitate to contact us if you have questions or comments, or if you'd like to suggest us a topic for a next podcast. You'll find all our contact details in a sec. Also, please keep in mind that we can offer trainings and technical support. Usually, training is at $30 per hour. We can do training on how to use smartphones, computers, Daisy readers, and much more. So don't hesitate to give us a call, send us an email, and we'll be happy to discuss and evaluate your needs and provide you a quote if needed. For Canadialog, it was Alexandre Bellemare, and I will catch you in another podcast episode. Thanks for listening. Before the end of this podcast, I would like to say thank you for your loyalty to this series of podcasts on assistive technologies. I would also like to thank our loyal collaborator. As a reminder, I would like to inform you that Canadialog will not provide free technical support on product presented during these shows and that are not sold directly by Canadialog. Please note that our podcasts are now available on our website, YouTube, iTunes, as well as on Victor devices by consulting the North American English suggested podcast list from Humanware. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can contact us via email at podcastwitness@canadialog.com. That is PODCASTS at CANADIALOG.com, or by phone on our toll-free number at 1-888-730-0003. Again, 1-888-730-0003, extension 555. I also invite you to visit our website, which contains a lot of useful information at www.canadialog.com. You can also visit us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Thanks for listening.